Another awesome evolutionary word to know is isolation. That's part of what can cause new species, is isolation. So if we want to know how a species becomes a new species or why one species breaks into two different species, isolation can happen. And there are three kinds, so let's write those up. So, the three types we have: geographic isolation, physical isolation, and sexual attraction isolation. Geographic isolation, geography is the study of land and maps and stuff, not technically maps, but all the land and mountains and everything. So, if we have a giant herd of horses, and trust me, my horses are going to look a lot like giraffes, I don't know, but apparently I do bubble animals. Anyways, if we have a lot of kinds of horses, and two random horses, let's say they have spots for the sake of this, wander to the other side of a big mountain range. So we got mountains in the middle, and they manage to get over there, but they kind of get lost, or a couple of them stay over there. Well, now the horses on this side of the mountain and the horses on that side of the mountain are not going to be having kids with each other anymore. And so you're going to get, these guys are going to change and evolve slightly over time, just like these guys will slightly change over time. And maybe in a million years then, these ones, I don't know, maybe on that side of the mountain the trees are a little taller, and these horse-like things slowly turn into a giraffe, or they turn into a tall horse. Where on this side, maybe all the food is down on the ground, and so the horses slowly evolve to be a little smaller. But because they're not having kids together anymore, they're able to go in different directions. As they evolve slowly, nature in each side will select for something a little bit different. Another thing instead of a mountain that can happen is we talked about chipmunks in class, where the Grand Canyon, and we'll do it like an upside down mountain apparently, but the Grand Canyon, water came and started washing away, and chipmunks used to be able to be like, oh, it's just a little water, and they jump across. But as it got deeper and deeper and deeper, now the chipmunk is like, that other side is not a thousand, but that other side is a couple miles away, and there's a giant drop in the middle. That is way too much work for me to go get. So instead, they just have chipmunk babies with people on their side, the other one have chipmunk babies with people on their side, and you end up with really funny looking, or different looking, chipmunk species on each side. That's geographic isolation. Physical isolation. This example is a Great Dane and a Chihuahua that we use all the time. Is that if you have a dog that is this big and one that is this, so like this big off the ground, and then you have one that is this big, they can't have babies easily anymore. And eventually, you know, if they keep breeding that way, or humans breed them that way, you're just not going to have a natural occurrence where a Chihuahua can have a puppy with a Great Dane anymore, and so they kind of become different species. So if we give those two dogs another million years, it's very likely you'd have completely different species. They wouldn't both be a kind of dog. They'd have, you know, one would be a canine Great Danes, and the other would be a canine Chihuahua, or whatever Latin is for Chihuahua. All right? So that is physical, is that they simply become too different. The other example for that was like a Samoan. So if on the football team we have a 300-pound, like 6'6" or 7-foot tall Samoan who is just massive. He looks like a mountain walking around. And then we have a cheerleader that's, you know, 4'5" and tiny, weighs 85 pounds or whatever. One of the flyers that we throw up in the air and then hope to catch. But if you're one of those, eventually, if we kept them separate from each other for long enough, the cheerleader probably couldn't even have kids with the giant Samoan anymore, and you'd have two different species of humans. And we have actually found pygmies in Indonesia and in Africa that are basically a race of humans that are kind of split off from normal humans that are a different species. So that is physical isolation. And finally, sexual attraction isolation. If suddenly nobody in the world was willing to have kids with blonde people except other blonde people, you might end up with a weird different species of humans that had really blonde hair. How this happens, we watched a Bird of Paradise video, which is that one where the bird puffs up, oh, that kind of works with the jacket, but it puffs up its neck and it does the little dance and it has those bright blue eyes and it looks crazy and it hops around and makes little clicking noises, which I'm not going to do for you right now. But sexual attraction is if some of the female birds only want to sleep with, or not really sleep because they're eggs, but if some of the birds only want to have babies with the blue-colored birds, and some other females only want to have babies with the yellow-colored birds, you're going to have a group that splits off, and they don't have a mountain between them or a valley, but some of the birds will only sleep together if they have, not again, But some of the birds will only have babies together if they have yellow feathers, or if the males have yellow feathers, and some of the birds will only have babies together if they have blue feathers. And so they naturally split, and now we have different species of birds of paradise. So that's our 3 types of isolation: geographic, physical, and sexual attraction. Those are things that can make new species.